corner past dusty barrels.
Exploring this medieval monastery reveals treasures at every turn.
He wends his way through a cramped room and emerges in a sunny courtyard.
Perhaps St. Catherine's is most well known for what must be the most famous shrub in history, the biblical burning bush, in which Moses first hears the voice of God. Not long after the Bible appeared, a tradition arose that this was the bush.
The bush's long leafy branches hang like a weeping willows. A mural shows Moses facing a bush bright with curling red flames. Exodus chapter 3, verse 2.
Behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. God called to him and said, Moses, Moses, take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt.
Now at the fabled bush, Bruce faces us.
Now what's astonishing is they actually moved the original burning bush from there to here when they built the basilica 1,500 years ago. Now what I love to think about is, can you imagine being in the meeting where they took the vote as to whether to move the burning bush or not?
Sunlight filters through the leaves.
The bush is a species of wild raspberry that's hardly ever found in the arid Middle East.
Bruce explores the courtyard below it.
The monks claim this is the actual burning bush. But whether or not it's 3,000 years old, even they don't want it to burn.
A fire extinguisher rests beside a stone wall. Now on a high walkway, a monk passes rows of bookshelves. Most of the spines are worn and tattered.
The jewel of St. Catherine's is the library, which houses a collection of priceless religious art and manuscripts. There are over 4,500 manuscripts, 7,000 early printed books, and 6,000 modern ones.
A long-bearded monk sets down a large book.
The treasures include some of the world's oldest Bibles and the first printed editions of Homer and Plato. The monastery's first American monk, Texas native Father Justin, told me that its large collection of illuminated manuscripts is second only to the Vatican's. I was particularly moved by this ancient manuscript of the 5 books of Moses in Greek.
We have 2 from the 10th century, and this is the more beautiful of the 2.
Father Justin turns brittle pages.
And let me turn to the beginning of the book of Exodus.
Now, the paper is so brittle.
This is parchment.
Where does Exodus begin and where does Genesis end?
This is the conclusion of the book of Genesis, and you see how it tapers down to the last word, Genesis, with this beautiful border and the ornaments. And then Exodus begins here with the border and the beautiful decorative initial.
How different is this Greek from the Greek that is spoken in Greece today?
This is much more classical Greek, but it is classical Greek influenced by the Hebrew and influenced very much the text that we read in the New Testament.
Why is the collection here so spectacular?
The climate and the extreme isolation of the monastery, the fact that it was never destroyed, never abandoned in 17 centuries, accounts for the remarkable library that we have today.
Another of the library's treasures is a 1,400-year-old letter offering protection for the monastery, said to be signed by the Prophet Muhammad with his handprint.
2 superb drawings of hands appear at the bottom of the letter.
The monastery's most famous manuscript was the Codex Sinaiticus, the oldest complete Bible in existence, written in Greek almost 2,500 years ago.
The Greek words form tidy columns.
In 1859, it was borrowed and never returned. It's now in the British Museum. Only a few pages remain here.
Now, Bruce inserts a CD into a laptop. The screen shows 2 pages of an open book.
We have here one of the oldest, if not the oldest, Hebrew text on a pretty new
For the
computer.
last
How
few
old is this
years,
computer?
Father Justin has been working to bring the ancient monastery into the 21st century, digitally photographing manuscripts and posting them on the internet. I asked Father Justin
How old
if
is this
this Bible
computer?
had clues about a long unanswered question. How many Israelites participate in the Exodus? The Hebrew Bible says 600,000 men, or 2 million overall. But some say the word for 1,000 has been mistranslated. The word for 1,000 here in Exodus 38 is Eleph. There is some idea that that also may mean clan. What is the Greek text? Does it give us any guidance on how many Israelites could have been here?
The Greek clearly says thousands.
But this is a huge barren area. What's the population of the Sinai today? Less than 100,000. How is it possible to imagine that this many millions of people could have lived here?
There's a point at which all physical explanations simply fail, and the only recourse is to say, no, they were sustained by God.
Now mountains loom under a cloudy sky.
Most scholars believe that many of the numbers in the Bible are idealized, including the millions of Israelites in the Exodus. But what is undeniably true is that for 15 centuries, pilgrims and monks have come here, believing they are walking in the Israelites' footsteps, making a personal connection to the story.
Nighttime, in a dark alley, Bruce uses a flashlight. He turns a corner up some stone stairs.
As I walked around the medieval nooks and crannies of the monastery, I could feel the power of faith in these stones.
Moonlight illuminates the monastery's outline. In his room, Bruce sits on his cot.
Despite the lack of archaeological evidence linking this place to the Exodus, I kept asking myself, does it matter to my relationship with the Bible?
He closes his books.
Morning services begin at 4 a.m., so I tried to get to sleep early.
A portable clock shows 10:14. Later, it shows 3 o'clock.
There's something unsettling about St. Catherine's, yet there's something moving about the fact that for 1,500 years, people have come here to confront God. Those people have made this ground holy. And they've also captured one genius of the Bible, I think. In the end, it transcends science. It trumps fear. It even endures belief. So that year after year, someone like me is sitting up in the middle of the night trying to figure out what it means.
Now, a monk's lantern brightens an outdoor alleyway, then shines on a very narrow stairwell. In a sanctuary, a monk lights candles with a long-handled rod containing a wick.
It's 4 a.m. Here in the basilica, the hour is marked by the morning service.
Monks gather in front of an altar.
I felt privileged to witness a ritual that has been going on day after day, unchanged, for the last 1,500 years.
Wearing white vestments, a monk swings a censer. Another, wearing a cassock, swivels a book's two-sided lectern. Now, Bruce faces us.
I've been doing the math. 5 services a day, 1,500 years. That's 3 million services have been held in this church since it first opened. The total darkness, the total isolation, the total devotion. This is the most extraordinary display of faith I've ever seen.
The priest in vestments uses a slender silver spoon to give communion to the laity. Other monks take communion themselves. Now the monks exit the church, burning incense and lighting their way with candles. At the end of the procession, the monk who performed the service carries the communion bread. Now our view lifts to the church's domed ceiling. An ornate mosaic covers it.
Much of the basilica is in its original condition. Even a rare Byzantine mosaic that depicts the transfiguration of Jesus, flanked by Elijah and Moses.
The mosaic's figures stand with uplifted fingers.
The time had come to retrace Moses' climactic encounter with God.
Words appear, Exodus chapter 19, verse 17.
And Moses brought the people to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded long, Moses spoke, and God answered him by voice. And he gave Moses 2 tablets of stone, written with the finger of God.
Daylight. In desert foothills, Bruce approaches a gathering of men tending camels.
Later that morning, I began my ascent of Jebel Musa, or Mount Moses. The Bible isn't specific about which mountain is Mount Sinai, but this mountain behind the monastery, the second tallest in the Sinai,
is the most famous of the 22 candidates for the biblical Mount Sinai.
We go up the mountain? Okay.
Father Justin, who would meet me halfway up, suggested I take a camel for the first leg of the trip.
Bruce faces a man with a camel.
Salam alaikum. How are you doing?
Fine.
What's your name?
Ramadan.
And what's the camel's name?
Chalabi.
Chalabi.
As the camel sits with its legs folded under itself, Bruce climbs on, swinging his leg over the saddle.
Now, where do I put my leg? Here? I like this. Lawrence of Arabia, he has it up there.
At the Bedouin's urging, the camel stands. The saddle bow presses into Bruce's stomach.
Excuse me, can you remove this pole?
No, so from up good.
Taking a lead rope, the Bedouin walks Bruce's camel toward the mountain.
Exodus 19 tells that in the 3rd month after the Israelites flee Egypt, they set up camp at the foot of the mountain where Moses had earlier encountered God in the burning bush. Then God instructs Moses to climb up alone.
As the guide escorts Bruce up the path, our view tilts toward the blue sky. Words appear, Exodus chapter 19, verse 12.
You shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, take heed that you do not go up to the mountain. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death.
A blurry figure passes 2 men.
After centuries of living in the flat Nile Delta, mountains would have been an unknown obstacle. How would the Israelites cross them? How could they survive?
During their 800 years in the desert, the Israelites have mostly lived in flatland or low foothills. Now, for the first time, they confront a real mountain. Surely they were expecting something big. The Bible says they trembled, and sitting here, I can see why.
The barren mountains tower above Bruce. He rides the camel to a small, boxy dwelling.
Father Justin was waiting for me at one of the way stations for the many pilgrims who walk on what's known as the Path of Moses. We would continue on foot.
The camel kneels. Father Justin watches Bruce dismount.
Okay.
Welcome.
There's not a single tree in this whole range.
It only rains here about 3 times a year.
Now, okay, we're heading which way?
The highest area right there is the pinnacle. That is the peak of Sinai.
The biblical story is very ornate. Moses goes up, he comes back. He goes with 70 elders, he comes back. Then he goes with Aaron and Joshua. Why is this giving of the law so complicated?
The first time he ascended, he was there 40 days and 40 nights, and the children of Israel lost patience. They didn't think he was coming back. They made the golden calf, which meant that they reverted back to the religion of the Egyptians. And then when Moses descended with the tablets of the law, he was so angry that he smashed the tablets. And then for 40 days and 40 nights, he asked God to have mercy on them. And then he ascended Sinai a second time. And that is when he descended with the tablets and all the law, not just the 10 Commandments.
In the early Christian era, monks began to store water on the side of the mountain, and as many as 300 lived here at one time.
Father Justin unlocks a door.
We stopped in one of the chapels that dot the route.
They stoop their shoulders to pass through the door and enter a simple chapel.
May I light a candle?
Please do. That is what pilgrims do.
Bruce approaches a small altar and uses a match to light the wick of a slender candle.
On Mount Moses, there are chapels dedicated to Elijah and Moses, as well as St. Gregory, St. John the Baptist, even the Virgin Mary.
Bruce sits beside Father Justin.
May I ask you a personal question? Why do you live here?
Everyone is here because they treasure the heritage that is here, and living here, you enter into that heritage and become a part of that heritage.
The biblical story suggests that it's hard to get close to God, even in the desert. Is that true?
I think the ascent of the mountain is the perfect image. In the midst of the labor and in the midst of the toil, that is when we are purified. In this as well, the prophet Moses remains the paradigm for all of us.
We're going to say goodbye now, and I'm going to go to the summit of the mountain. What should I listen for?
The revelation of God is not something that can be predicted, but it is at holy places that we open our hand, and it is when we open our hand that we receive the gift.
Thank you very much, Father.
Okay, Godspeed.
Bruce steps outside the chapel with his backpack.
I began the final leg to the top of Mount Moses alone. I couldn't help wondering why the Bible doesn't give more details about where Mount Sinai is located.
Bruce climbs up the rough terrain.
The higher I got, though, the more I realized maybe the Bible wants the location to be a mystery.
He ascends up a path of large, crudely tiered stones. Lifting his knees high, he steps from one rock to the next.
Maybe it doesn't want us to focus on the physical details of the mountain, but on its spiritual meaning.
Now, with a scarf wrapped around his neck, Bruce scales a smoother path.
For the record, I'm wearing hiking boots, 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of pants, 2 shirts, 2 pieces of fleece, a jacket, a scarf, and 2 pairs of gloves. Moses would have done this in sandals.
Bruce continues, and our view glides past the sprawling mountainous horizon. As the sun shines down brightly, the adventurer scales a steep, uneven path to the summit. Above, clouds partially cover a vibrant blue sky. Trekking over the jagged stones, Bruce turns a corner. He occasionally braces himself by leaning his hands on the rocks. He continues higher. A large grin forms on his face. At the summit, Bruce advances to the edge of a flat boulder. He looks out over the expanse of endless peaks. Dramatic shadows darken the furrowed mountain ranges.
For me, the significance of Mount Sinai is that at the climactic moment of the story, when God chooses to give his laws, he comes down to the land itself. In doing so, he cements that sacred relationship among the people, the land, and God. And sitting on this holy mountain, I can't help feeling the tug of that land. And it reminds me that in the same way God reaches out to humans at that moment, we have to reach out to him. We have to take ourselves away from the civilized world into some desert, however personal, into some private place, where we triumph over our fears and finally open ourselves up to the promise yet to come.
Now, pink, orange, and blue hues swirl over the silhouetted mountains. Our view lifts above fuchsia clouds to the clear sky. Daytime, a jeep speeds down a paved road in the desert. Bruce rides in the passenger seat.
The Israelites' acceptance of the 10 Commandments marks the beginning of their birth as a spiritual nation, committed to living within a strict moral framework. After a year, they continue their trek toward the Promised Land. For me, that meant driving north.
The jeep heads past sparse shrubs and parks next to a sandstone outcropping eroded with smooth, wavy contours.
We stopped at a place where many desert travelers had left messages. It's called Written Stone. Early scholars attributed these carvings to the Israelites, but none of them is in Hebrew.
A variety of carved symbols and letters covers the sides of the grainy stone. A man in a headscarf points to a section.
These are one-hump camels.
Camels, yeah. There's a few camels here.
Primitive etchings of camels cover one area.
What is this language here?
This is a Romanian language.
So you think it's Latin? It looks almost Greek to me, or maybe Nabatean?
Nabatean maybe, it can be.
The Nabateans were a nomadic tribe of skilled traders who passed through this area 1,000 years after the Israelites.
Now, the jeep heads up a road. Behind it, silhouetted mountainscapes layer the horizon. Later, they traverse arid flats.
Off the main road, we headed to a site that offers provocative insights into the Exodus from yet another era.
They approach circular rocky huts.
The Bedouin call these stone structures nawamis, or mosquitoes. They believe the Israelites stayed in them to escape mosquitoes during their journey in the Sinai.
The small structures rest close together on elevated rock formations. Each one consists of rings of layered stones and a rock-cluttered roof. Bruce walks between 2 mosquitoes. He stands nearly as tall as the huts.
In fact, archaeologists have determined the Nawamis predate the Israelites. They are burial sites from 5,000 years ago, the oldest roofed structures on the planet. pastoral nomads created these permanent burial spots so their dead could be assured of an afterlife.
Over half a dozen mosquitoes dot the ridge. Now a Bedouin leads a camel.
The Israelites' ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and